Voces Latinas, 1610 AM. A drink of water with Joyce Aldrich. Refresh your mind.
Welcome to this evening's edition of A Drink of Water. My goodness, it's -1 at 8:03 here at CHHA 1610 AM. Yeah, the snow is falling out there, so I hope you're all driving carefully if you're listening in your cars, and stay in if you don't have to go out there. And we're going to have tonight, we've got great guests in studio. We have Rabbi Yossi Vorovitch from Georgina, Chabad, and we're going to be talking about Chanukah and all things wonderful around that terrific holiday and what it means to the Jewish people. And anyone who's listening is Jewish today, well, you know what? If you don't know all about what's happening in Chanukah, which way to light your menorah and all kinds of other things that we're going to be talking about this evening, well, tonight's the night to listen in. If you don't know, well, if you're not Jewish, it's time to learn a little bit about Jewish culture and traditions, and it's going to be wonderful. And this is a wonderful song called Chanukah, oh Chanukah, just to start off the evening. Oh Chanukah, and it's coming up on December 2nd, that's Sunday, and in studio I have Rabbi Yossi Vorovitch, and welcome to A Drink of Water. So wonderful to have you.
Thank you so much for having me, Joyce.
It's an absolute pleasure, and it's wonderful to talk about Chanukah. It's a wonderful holiday, and people who aren't Jewish sometimes, mistaken it as the Jewish Christmas, which it is not. So let's talk about what Chanukah is. Now you're with Georgina Chabad. Let's just talk about that a little bit too. Georgina Chabad up in Keswick, actually, you're stationed.
Yep,
yeah,
we're in
Keswick. Center is, yeah.
We moved out there just a year and a half ago, and the Jewish population is quite growing. It's a couple hundred Jewish families up in Georgina.
Did that surprise you that there were so many Jews up there?
Absolutely. When we actually went out there, we were going door to door, and the Jewish people said, "Yeah, we're Jewish, but we're the only ones here. We're the only ones here." Everyone was saying they're the only ones here, and lo and behold, we made an event. We made a public gathering. We did a barbecue, and so many families came out. Everyone was, "Wait, you're out here? I'm out." Everyone, slowly but surely, people gathering together, and we have, thank God, a beautiful community growing and blossoming, and it's,
well, you
it's
bring
wonderful.
food, the Jews will come. it's a food culture.
We make sure that all our events we have a lot of l'chaim.
That's right.
a lot of kosher food.
A lot of good food. And actually, before we get into what Hanukkah is all about, let's just start talking about the menorah lighting, the Hanukkah celebration you're going to be having up at Jackson's Point Parquet, Saturday night, December 8th at 6:30. And that's interesting because, you know, it wasn't that long ago in the 1950s when those beaches said, no dogs and no Jews.
Yeah, but
it's sure changed.
Absolutely, and it's actually quite amazing.
Thank God.
Just lately, we had a great tragedy in Pittsburgh. You know,
Yes.
about the shooting in Pittsburgh and in the Tree of Life congregation over there.
Yeah.
And the community got together and they did a vigil. We did a vigil with the town and the community together, and the mayor came out, and a lot of people. We had close to 200 people came out. It was actually interesting. We set up 30 chairs. We thought only a few people will come, but the crowds grew, and we had to put out more and more chairs, and thank God that we had 200 people, and it was just a great sign of unity from the community, the Georgina community. It's a wonderful community out there.
It is. It really is.
And people came together, and just from past history, how there were signs there, and the way it is today, thank God we could say that, we could be proud of being Jewish, and we're having the Chanukah celebration in Jackson's Point. We put up a 9-foot menorah at the Jackson's Point Parquet.
Fabulous.
It's actually interesting. Jackson's Point, they have a synagogue there that's 70 years old, so there's a lot of Jewish history in Jackson's Point.
There is, yes.
And this year we put up a large 9-foot menorah, and we're going to have on December 8th at 6:30 p.m. a great Hanukkah celebration. We're going to have a chocolate gelt coin drop with the fire department, and the mayor's going to come out, and we're going to light the beautiful menorah, and we're going to have a lot of fun.
Now, not to mention those famous Hanukkah donuts, the delicious donuts, best donuts.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's talk about Hanukkah. What is Hanukkah? It's not the Jewish Christmas. No.
Yeah, absolutely not. Hanukkah is just over 2,000 years ago. Alexander the Great, he was a great warrior, and he conquered a lot of countries, and he also conquered the land of Israel at that time. And his predecessor was Antiochus Epiphanes, and he was a very evil ruler. And when he came out, when he became a ruler, he came out with a lot of decrees against the Jewish people, that the Jews weren't able to celebrate their religion and keep their faith and do things of the way God commanded them to do it. And he was a very evil ruler, and he persecuted a lot of Jews because of their religion. And there was a small group of Maccabees that were rebels. They got together, and there were a bunch of farmers, a bunch of small group of people, and the Greek Syrian army was great,
huge,
40,000 soldiers, and this small army of Maccabees, of Jewish rebels, they fought against the Greeks, and they ended up managing to push them out of the land and taking back control of Israel. And when they came back to the temple in Jerusalem, they saw that the Greeks, they defiled the whole temple. They destroyed all holiness to it, and they broke all the seals of the oil.
The sacred oil, yeah.
The sacred oil in the temple that lit the menorah that they had in the temple, and they looked all over to find the special oil that had a seal, because in order to light the menorah you have to actually have a seal. And the Greeks, the whole point of the Greeks were that they were against the idea of having a seal. They were against the whole idea of holiness of God, and they said, you could do your traditions as long as it makes sense in our brain, and not because God says so. We don't believe in the whole God aspect of it. Right. So they destroyed all the seals of the oil.
And the one that they found, was that not the one with the seal of Moses on it?
The seal of the high priest.
The high priest was Aaron, but was it? It was
from Aaron's. It was from Aaron's children.
Yes, that's what I thought.
And his family line. They were the high priest. They were the Cohens.
The Cohens, yeah.
And so they found one jug of oil, and they lit the menorah, and it would have taken them 8 days to get new oil. So there was a miracle that jug of oil lasted for 8 days. And that's how the tradition and the holiday of Chanukah came about, with the lighting of the menorah for 8 nights.
That's right, and why we eat food that is made with oil, like frying latkes and frying donuts and frying blintzes, and it's a happy holiday, and it's a rabbinical holiday, I understand, which means it's not amongst the ones that are God's holy days, but one that we've taken on ourselves to celebrate freedom.
Yep, and that's the idea of Chanukah, where we have there was a lot of persecution against religion, against being proud of who you are, proud of our faith, and proud of our background, and the holiday of Chanukah reminds us about that whole idea of freedom of religion, freedom of speech, and that's the idea why we make public menorah lightings, and we do it outside, and we put the menorah in the window or at the door, to show, to bring the light of Chanukah, the light, the warmth, the peace out to the outside world, and that's the big lesson we have from Chanukah.
That's a beautiful lesson, and it's one that in a time where we're being politically correct, and everyone's afraid to say this or that, and there's seems to be a lot of tension around religion and everything. You can't, like a lot of Christians are going through things too. You can't have a Christmas tree, you have this, you have that in certain public areas. But here's Chabad with a wonderful menorah and on top of the car and in front of the house and everything. We're going to go to break. It's 8:15 here at CHHA 1610 AM. When we come back, we're going to talk more about Hanukkah and also introduce 2 very special guests who are here with Rabbi Yossi tonight, and they're going to be able to also chime in very soon. So we'll be back right after these messages.
You are listening to Radio Voces Latinas, 1610 AM. A drink of water.
You're here. If you're just tuning in to us right now here at CHHA 1610 AM, you're listening to A Drink of Water. I'm Joyce Aldrich, and I have in studio Rabbi Yossi Vorovitch and also his brother Levy Vorovitch and a wonderful young man named Israel Bressinger, who's also here and from Montreal. So we've got a great group of lads in the studio tonight. Chabad lads. There we are. And so happy to have you here. It's a special day for Chabad, and let's talk about that. It's the 19th of Kislev. What does that mean to Chabad? Yeah, Israel?
Yeah, so actually today we're celebrating the most greatest day in the Chabad calendar, which represents the day when the founder of the Chabad movement, Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi, we call him the Alter Rebbe, the first Chabad Rebbe, was actually put in jail, put in prison for his teachings. That the Russian government was imprisoned, and he was charged with creating a new religion and trying to rebel against the Russian government.
So here we're talking about religious freedom again, and this really ties in beautifully with Hanukkah. This is wonderful. So yeah, so he was in prison. For how long was he in prison for?
53 days he was in prison.
Long enough.
And it's very interesting how his the book that he wrote, which is a Tanya, has
Yes.
53 chapters.
Oh,
So it's, every day he was in jail. He was really he paid for, he really paid with his heart and soul for every chapter that he wrote. He gave himself for it, gave his life for it.
mm-hmm.
And it's interesting, the connection to Chanukah. We say Chanukah is light. We read like the
Yes.
Chanukah menorah. It's all about light, and the Hasidic philosophy is also compared to light. It brings light. Light brings light into a person, brings light into the world. Because one of the ideas about that is that a person is created a little bit selfish. A person is created all about thinking about himself, the world, and what the Hasidic philosophy is lighting up a person's reality. How it's not all about himself. It's sometimes about what God wants, a greater purpose. So it gives light, but the truth, lights up a person's ideas, and to live a higher standard of life about what the truth is.
Right. I wanted to add to that.
No, this
that
is
in
amazing.
those days, there was a little bit of a rift where the simple folk and the more scholarly were kind of on a separate pages in within the Jewish people, and even to the extent that some places even had their own separate synagogues. That the more scholarly looked down upon the simple folk, and the simple folk didn't look good upon the scholarly, and there was that rift. And
It's always sad when that happens.
the whole idea of the Hasidic
Yeah.
movement came about and said, wait, let's take the simple folk, and the simple folk are also very great, and let's bring out the inner part of our neshama, our soul, and let's lighten up that spark within us, and that's through serving God with that special spark, with that force from within us. That's how we could accomplish a lot greater, and that's kind of where the Hasidic philosophy brought in that whole idea.
And we're kind of living in a time like that now where people are looking at themselves, what I do, I make my world, I make my life, I make all of the material things that we have, and the great technology and all the inventions and everything. And people are not giving any credence to where that actually comes from, because we're all given God-given talents. I like the way Rabbi Zell Newman puts it. He says, God gives us the flour, but we have to make the bread, Right. But sometimes what happens now is that people think it's like the sort of like the selfie generation, we become very self-absorbed and thinking we are the creators of our own universe. When we do that, when we're looking in so much, how can we give our light to the world? And maybe with Chabad, you really are outreach. You're
Absolutely,
going,
and that's the whole idea. That's actually the word Chabad. Chabad is it's an acronym from three words: Chachma, Binah, Dat, which are three levels of intellect in Hebrew. So that's the whole idea of that. We take the intellect, we bring in the ideology, and we relate it to our lives. It's very easy to get stuck in our day-to-day lives, in our routines. But when we have that knowledge of within our intellect, and we kind of get a little bit of a grasp of a little bit of understanding of where we are in the picture, that helps us achieve and fulfill our mission down here on a much greater level.
Yeah, and how do you get through to people about a mission, whether they're Jewish or non-Jews, whether they're Catholics or Protestants or atheists or agnostics or whatever, because we're all children of God, so everybody on this planet has a mission. So how is that established? How by Hashem or by God, because He gave a mission to everybody. How do we do it? I know you were going to talk a little bit about the Noahide laws and about because one thing about Jewish people, we don't try to convert anyone. You can be who you are.
Absolutely.
But be the best who you are, right? So let's talk about that, because I think that's a very interesting part of...
Absolutely. So there's the 7 Noahide laws, which God gave to all mankind.
Right.
And through... we believe very strongly that if the world keeps to those 7 laws, which are very, very simple laws, the world will be in a great place. And I truly believe the world is in a great place. Unfortunately, the media and different outlets kind of show out the bad, and
good news doesn't sell. We know that.
Exactly. And but there's plenty of good out there,
yeah.
and we have to shine a spotlight on that. And one of the ways is through doing the 7 Noahide laws, and we could read it.
What are they
let's say
for
the
people
7
who
Noahide
don't
laws.
know?
just before I say the laws, just these laws were given by at Mount Sinai.
I thought they were given to Noah, but like sort
so
of.
So they
like
were given at Noah, but again they were re-given for all of mankind at Mount Sinai.
So when the Hebrew people stood at Mount Sinai, those who received the 10 statements or commandments, that was one thing. But at the same time, there was another set of laws given to everyone who wasn't there.
Exactly.
Ah, okay, cool.
Right. And so even though the laws you're going to hear, they're very simple laws, and hopefully most people keep them either way. But the point is to bring God into your life. I'm doing these as a way to connect to God.
Okay.
So the 7 Noahide laws. The first one is. No adultery, no cursing God's name, no robbery, not to kill, not to eat from an animal while it's still alive. First kill the animal, then eat from it, and to set up courts of justice to make a normal society. And the first one, of course, is to believe in one God.
Believe in one God, monotheism.
Exactly, believe in one God. So even though, very simple laws, but the point is that I'm fulfilling them not because I understand this is the way it should be, but it's to bring in God into my life and bring God into the world.
Well, there you go. So for anyone who wants to look those up online, the Noahide laws, and, see how you can adhere to those. So, yes, Rabbi Yossi, we heard here from Levy. We're going to hear from Levy soon.
Absolutely. So absolutely. So if everyone keeps to those laws, the world will be in a much, much better, greater place. And we strongly encourage everyone to look up these laws. You could search it up online. asknoah.org, and you could make the world a much greater place.
Now the shocking thing for a lot of listeners would be, but I thought the 10 Commandments were also, for not just the Jewish people, but for everyone. And no, that's a different set of laws, because with those 10 statements or commandments comes 613 other laws and sub-laws, subsection. Oh my goodness, so much stuff. Whole thing is that, it'd be shocking for people to see, well, what's that all about? How come?
I'm sure that phone call was about someone trying to figure out how to listen to the show.
That's right, it was absolutely, and I do apologize for not turning my phone off. I always do, and I thought, oh, okay. Yes, it was Hashem. There you go. So we're going to actually go to break, because it's at 8:28 we go to break, and I'd like to talk more about that. I know we're going to also play some very beautiful music for the 19th of Kislev.
Right.
But we'll play that after we talk a little bit more about the Noahide laws when we come back after break, and because it's a very long piece. It's 8 minutes and 27 seconds, and beautiful piece of music, and we'll talk about that when we come back right after break, and we'll be here with Rabbi Yossi Vorovitch of Georgina Chabad, and Israel Bressinger, and of course Levy Vorovitch, who we're going to hear from very, very soon.
He has a lot to say.
He has a lot to say. I can see he's been doing the tech over there. He's been your little techie, so it's really great. So we'll go back to break, and we'll be back right after this.
You are listening to Radio Voces Latinas, 1610 AM. A drink of water.
Yes, welcome here to A Drink of Water, CHHA 1610 AM, and we're listening in to a really interesting conversation tonight. Maybe some things have surprised you, maybe not, but just to go ahead a little bit more with that whole idea about the 10 Commandments versus the Noahide laws. It's hard for people to grasp, especially when whole religions are based around it, whole belief systems. Okay, no, that's a hard one.
just want to say that at Mount Sinai a lot happened there. So there were the 10 Commandments,
and
then Moses went up for 40 days and 40 nights, and he actually received the rest of the Torah,
the oral
Torah, and also the actual the 5 books of Moses. Right, so the 10 Commandments don't have the 5 books of Moses. It's just 10 Commandments. So there's a lot happened in those 40 days. So during those 40 days, also 7 laws for all of mankind to keep.
And those 5 books are considered to Christians the Old Testament.
That's correct.
And then plus there are also the Psalms are also included in that as well for them. It's been recompiled.
Right, but we call it the Torah.
The Torah, so. exactly the Torah, absolutely. The Chumash that people can pick up and take a look at, and it's portable Torah. The Chumash, the book. So yeah, it's wonderful though that we can look at this time of year as a time of freedom, like you said with the Alter Rebbe, being freed from prison. So, Levy, do you want to add anything to that?
Say a small little piece, saying that they said about the Alter Rebbe.
Yes.
That the people were saying that why did the Alter Rebbe have to go through so much pain in jail? People were saying he did crazy, a lot of pain on his shoulders. He could have, since he was such a high man, he could have felt it above. So they were saying that it's compared to when oil is being squeezed under the press. That before the olive is squeezed, it has the fruit.
Mm-hmm.
But after it squeezes, it has the oil. But during when it's under the press, it has neither of it. But only to get the oil, it needs to be under the press. So only for the Alter Rebbe to bring out what he later brought out and brought the whole Hasidic movement, and bring out the Hasidic philosophy a lot greater, he needed to go through that, and that shows how great of a human being he was, and how great he cared for everyone, and how he wanted every person to continue on his path, even though it will cause a lot of pain.
Chabad, the Hasidic movement, is all over the world.
Absolutely, we have over 5,000 centers all over the whole world, and wherever you are, you could go you could join them for anything, for Shabbat or for holidays, or even for kosher meals.
And my son met you in India, not you personally, but Chabad. I mean, he's walking down the street.
I actually have a few friends in India, so
I bet you
one of my friends.
He's still got his Chabad India keeper. But yeah, that's the thing. You're everywhere, and that's the thing about the Jewish community. It's a big family.
Absolutely, that's really what we for us, being Jewish is a family. It's more of a family than a religion, even though we have that religion aspect.
Yeah.
But I wanted to speak a little bit about the Alter Rebbe,
yes, please.
Just to give a little broader picture. The Alter Rebbe was considered the spiritual grandson of the Baal Shem Tov. Baal Shem Tov, he was the founder of the Hasidic movement, and his spiritual grandson was the Alter Rebbe, and he was born, I believe, in 1745.
Yes.
And the Alter Rebbe was obviously a very great genius, a brilliant person, and he was also a holy person. So he also had that aspect of he could tap into spiritual sparks and spiritual levels. And then at the certain age, the Alter Rebbe started spreading this whole wrote the book Tanya, and he was spreading this whole idea of the Hasidic movement in Europe, and some circles of Jews did not really like it and weren't so appreciative of it, so they told over to the Tsar government, which at that time the Tsar was the ruler of Russia, that he was sending money to Turkey, because Turkey at that time was in a war with Russia. And really what was happening, he was sending to other Jewish communities in Israel that were very poor. He was sending them money.
They would have to go through Turkey probably to get...
No, but Turkish was ruling Israel at the time.
Okay, the Ottoman Turks, that's right, they were there. Yes, that's right.
So they told the government that he was actually supporting the Turkish against the Russians, which actually happens to be just the opposite. The Alter Rebbe was actually a huge fan of the Tsar of Russia, and there was a war just afterwards there was a war with Napoleon in Russia, and the Tsar, within the Jewish community, the Alter Rebbe was a big supportive of the Tsar ruling Russia. But that's an aside point.
Yes.
But so he eventually got arrested, and he was taken to prison on a black wagon, and a wagon that was used only for top criminals. And there was a lot of very interesting incidents that happened while he was in imprisonment and when he was freed. Just to say one quick incident, there was a great minister who wasn't Jewish, but he was a great philosopher, he was a great scholar, and he knew a lot of Jewish subjects. And he heard that there was a great rabbi that was in prison, a great scholar. So he went out to this prison, and he went to go meet the Alter Rebbe, to meet the Rebbe in prison. He comes in there, and they start talking, and he tells the Alter Rebbe, I have a question for you. In the Bible, in the Torah, it says, we learn about how Adam and Eve ate from the tree of knowledge, and that God afterwards came looking for them and was upset at them, and they hid from God. And God said the words, Ayeka, where are you? God was looking for them.
He knew where they were, but
so exactly. So he
still
asked.
asking.
So that
Where are you?
this was his question. This
Yeah.
this minister, this scholar, he asked Alter Rebbe, why was God asking Ayeka, where are you? God knows where they were.
That's
Why
right,
is he asking?
yeah.
So the Alter Rebbe said the simple explanation, which is on the commentary of Rashi, the most famous commentary on the Torah. Rashi explains that God didn't want to frighten them, so he brought them out, like you said, Joyce. He brought them. He kind of started the conversation. Said, "Where are you?"
Yeah.
So he said, "No, I know this explanation." He says, I know that. I want to hear
God's
your
such
explanation.
a psychologist, you know.
I want to hear your explanation. So the Alter Rebbe said, "Do you believe in the oral Torah?" So he said, "Yes, I believe it." So he said, Ayeka is a question God is asking, where are you? Not to you specific, not to Adam and Eve, but rather to all of us. God is asking us, where are we? Where are we holding in life? And at that point, the Alter Rebbe said, where are you in life? And he mentioned his age, this minister's age to him. And this minister was taken back of how did the rabbi know my age and my year? And he kind of respected him a lot more after that incident. And afterwards, when they were trying to force the Alter Rebbe to eat non-kosher food, at that time the soldiers, the Russians, and the prison guards didn't really care, and the Rabbi, Alter Rebbe, didn't want to eat non-kosher food, and he came into rescue because he knew the Alter Rebbe was a holy person, a spiritual person, and he said, "I will arrange the kosher food," and that he was the one that brought in kosher food. One last incident that happened was the Tsar. It reached to the ears of the Tsar of Russia that there was a holy person in prison, and he actually, what happened was he dressed up as a regular prison warden or prison guard, and he went out to the prison to go meet the Alter Rebbe undercover. Wow. And when he walked into the prison cell of the Alter Rebbe stood up from respect, and he wasn't dressed like the Tsar. And he asked the Alter Rebbe.
Him.
He didn't, at that time there weren't so many pictures out there.
No, I guess
not. Rebbe, how do you know I'm the Tsar?
Oh, Google.
he's not famous like it was today. I mean, obviously they knew of him and all that, but not necessarily didn't know how he looked like, or especially he was dressed up. He was on incognito, you know.
Right.
So he asked him, how do you know I'm the Tsar? So the Alter Rebbe said, because when you walked in, I saw the guardian angel of Russia walking with you. So I knew that you were the Tsar. We're speaking about a very, very holy genius, or the Rebbe. He was a great holy person.
And the thing is, and there you mentioned angels. You know, so there'll be a lot of people who are out there who are saying, Jews believe in angels? Seriously, you know, like, because that seems like such a Christian idea, you know, especially around this time of year with Christian angels or beautiful angels and decorations and angelic presences and everything. But yes.
Yeah, we believe in angels, not necessarily with those pictures of the wings and the stars and all that, but yes, absolutely. In the Torah, it speaks about angels. It speaks about how the angels went to Abraham, Avraham, and Lot, and
and how they complained about us getting the Torah. It's like, how are you giving them that? Why are you giving? That's an interesting thing too. But why the angels, when everyone was at Mount Sinai, the angels said to Hashem, "Why are you giving them the Torah? Like they're a bunch of idol worshippers. They're a bunch of nebbishes. You know, what are they doing? They're not going to do anything with that." And Moses came up with a very good answer. Levy, you know that answer? He said
he knows the answer.
He knows the answer.
He knows the answer. It's actually interesting because what happened was the angels came when Moses came up to heaven to receive the Torah from God. From God, the angels came running and said, "Wait, the Torah is with us in heaven. We want the Torah. Why are you giving it up to the humans who are like what you were saying?" Yeah. So God turned to Moshe Rabbeinu and he said, "You answer them." You know, you speak to the angels. So Moses, I'm gonna fight. I'm a human. I'm gonna fight with the angels.
Levy, tell him, Levy.
Because the angels can't do they're spiritual people. They're not physical people. They can't do anything. They have the Torah. They can learn all day, but they can't do anything with it. They can't do good deeds. They can't. All we can do is just learn all day. God wanted that it should be given over to people. People should be able to learn from it, do good deeds, and
that's exactly what
and fallible people who are going to commit adultery and steal and lie and covet and not. And
that's exactly what he responded. Moses responded was exactly. Hold on a second. Let's look in the Torah. It says, "Respect your father and mother." Excuse me, angels. Do you have parents?
Where's your mommy and daddy?
Yeah.
Tell me. How's your daddy?
Actually, very connected to Chanukah because the idea of Chanukah is that we're not scared of the darkness. Right? Everyone has a dark part of themselves, so there's a way like I'll just ignore it.
Yeah.
And God is saying, no, I want to give the Torah to people who have that darkness, for them to transform it,
shine
light in the darkness.
And the Hebrew letters are like light.
Absolutely. The Hebrew letters, we believe Hebrew letters have a lot of very deep meaning and deep the Kabbalah, the Zohar explains a lot about the letters, and it's a very deep knowledge and
I may be a little kooky, I'm a little kooky, but when the Havdalah candle is that we have a 3-wick candle for those who are listening. It's and we use it at the end. We use for the Havdalah at the end of Shabbat, right? But it's got 3 wicks, and when I see those flames leaping from there, I wish I could read Hebrew, which I can't. I think there are messages coming out in Hebrew letters off the top of the Havdalah candle. I think I see Hebrew letters. Maybe I'm nuts.
I got to come to your house to see that Havdalah candle.
And not mine. It's the one at the village shul. I look and I go, oh my goodness, I wish I could speak. There's a message in there somewhere.
The special Havdalah candle.
But it is very spiritual.
Absolutely.
What else? We were going to talk about.
My father likes repeating. Sorry, just about Shabbat table on the Shabbat. We have a special.
And your father's also he's a rabbi here in
at Chabad Romano in Richmond Hill.
Right.
He's one of the rabbis there.
Mm-hmm.
He loves repeating this idea, trying to explain the idea of the Hebrew letters on Shabbat. On Shabbat table, we have a lot of different types of foods. And it's actually interesting that there's a numeric value behind every letter in Hebrew, like the Aleph, the A, the Aleph, the first letter is 1, the second letter is 2, 3, 4. Every letter has a numeric value to it. And the special things we actually eat on the Shabbat table actually represents the number 7, which is Shabbat, which is the seventh day of the week.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, we have fish. We eat fish. Fish in Hebrew is the word dag. Dalet Gimel, which is 4 and 3. 4 and 3 is 7.
Wow.
And so on and so forth. We have different, we have basar, meat. We eat meat on the Shabbat table. We have meat. And the basar is 2, shin is 300, and resh is 200. So it's 500 and 2. So that's 7. We have the candles. We make kiddush. We have wine. Wine in Hebrew is yayin. And that's what we're gonna end off with that. The yayin is the yud nun 10 and 5. So that's 50, 60, 70. So we had also the letter 7 in the wine.
And that's called gematria, which is like a type of Jewish numerology.
Absolutely.
And actually Judaism is very spiritual, very mystical, and bringing that world, and that we're really a body having a soul having a physical experience. We're not the other way around. We're that soul in the body, and
but our soul's in the body. In order for the soul actually to be uplifted, the soul, when it comes down into our body, it's kind of upset. Why are you taking me away into the physical world?
Right.
But actually, just the opposite. Through being in the body, the soul actually gets on a much higher level, and that's all about us having a purpose in life and a mission in life and to do good, because that actually elevates the soul, which the soul can't even get without being in the body.
That's
so
right.
That's what we strongly believe in, and that's what we try to achieve every single day.
And I was going to play Pada B'Shalom. I'm going to do that as soon as we come back out of break. Can you set that up for us, please? Because it's the most beautiful song. It's long, but it's gorgeous.
So let me explain to you about the song. This actually is a verse from. It's actually a whole psalm in the book of Psalms. It's Psalm number 55, and it's actually interesting. It's very connected. The song is very connected to liberation, and actually the story goes that the Alter Rebbe, when he was being liberated on the 19th of Kislev, which is today.
Yes.
So he when he was being liberated, he was actually reading the Psalms, reading Tehillim, the book of Psalms,
right.
And he was actually up to this specific psalm when he was liberated. And this psalm actually is very, very, very connected to the whole idea of liberation. And the first verse is Pada B'Shalom, I'm redeemed in peace. Ki berabim hayu imadi, because many were with me. The whole idea of peace.
Interesting.
When you have peace, just one idea of peace. When there's a war and you have two sides, and there's a winner of the war, not necessarily is there real peace, because even though the other one won over the other country, but the other people are oppressed to listen to what they have to say. But true peace is when both sides are actually on the same pace and in the same idea, and that's the idea of peace. That when we have two different parties that get together and they actually unified in the same idea and they hold of the same ways, that's the true level of peace.
And that really won't come about until Moshiach comes. So and people say, well, we have Messiah, and there is Jesus, and maybe he would have made a good Chabad guy because
I don't know, but absolutely. We have Moshiach is coming very soon, and we wait for him every single day, and we believe very strongly that he's coming very soon. And the whole idea of the Hasidic philosophy coming at the last generations before Moshiach's arrival, that's giving us a small taste of what will be when Moshiach comes. Because when we know when Moshiach will come, when the Jewish Messiah, when the world is going to be in a much better place and a much peaceful world, we're going to have the whole extra level, a whole deeper meaning of the Torah, and we're going to be able to learn a lot more that we don't know today about the Torah. And that Hasidic philosophy is a drop of what we will taste. We're tasting a drop of what will be when Moshiach will come.
So a drink of water.
Absolutely. So connected to our radio show.
There you go. So we're going to go out to break, and I do want to remind people about our radio anniversary is coming up, the 14th one. So I'll be talking about that a little bit before I play the beautiful Parabah Shalom when we come back right after this.
You are listening to Radio Voces Latinas, 1610 AM. A drink of water.
Yeah, you're listening to A Drink of Water. My name is Joyce Aldrich, and I want to tell you about our 14th anniversary here at CHHA 1610 AM. We'll be celebrating it on Saturday, December 15th, at the local 183, 1263 Wilson Avenue, west of Kiel and east of Jane Street. Come celebrate and enjoy with us our anniversary, our 14th anniversary. And also they'll be celebrating Christmas at that time, and we'll just keep listening to CHHA for more updates over the next week. And we've got lots of great, wonderful artists who are going to be performing as well. And we're in studio here with Rabbi Yossi Vorovitch and Israel Bressinger and Levy Vorovitch. And we're going to just, yes, there you go, but here they are. So Rabbi Yossi, you want to say?
Yeah, so we were speaking about Moshiach, and we wanted to connect to the idea of, there's a famous story about, I mentioned the Baal Shem Tov, he was the founder of the Hasidic movement, that it says, there's a famous story that he actually went into the chamber, he went up in heaven and went up to the chamber of Moshiach, and he saw him and he said, when are you going to reveal yourself? When is Moshiach coming? So the Moshiach told him, in Hebrew, a line, Kishiyafutzu ma'nasecha chutza, when your well springs will be spread out into the outside, that's when Moshiach will come. And that's kind of where the Alter Rebbe, the founder of the Chabad movement, and the current Lubavitch Rebbe, who we are messengers of him throughout the whole world, he is the one that brought out this whole idea of the light of spreading the Hasidic philosophy of Judaism out to the world, to the public, so that way the world actually has those well springs out. And when we have that, that's when we know when Moshiach will come, and that's one of the reasons why we have so many centers and spread out so much Judaism all over the world.
Israel.
Just want to connect that with the 7 Noahide laws, because some people have a little bit of a misconception of what the coming of Mashiach really is all about. The most basic understanding of the days of Messiah is that it's going to be a peaceful, normal, a world where what's important is God's will. So that's the 7 Noahide laws is really a preparation, and that's when everyone is keeping the 7 Noahide laws, that is the state of Mashiach. That is the state where it's going to be a peaceful, a world which is full of just doing what's important and doing what's right, as opposed to what I desire.
And thankfully, we do have a lot of monotheistic beliefs and a lot of beautiful countries with great justice systems, and we've just got to keep that going and building on that until we can have that peace in the world. So I want to thank, because I'm going to be going right out to the end of the show with this. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
And come out to the menorah lighting Saturday night, December 8th. And please go to Jewish Georgina Georgina.ca to get all the information. JewishGeorgina.ca. That's your website to get all the information on the December 8th menorah lighting in Jackson's Point at 6:30 p.m. So we're going to be going out, and also thank you, Levy, and thank you, Israel.
Thank you. Happy holidays and happy Chanukah.
Happy Chanukah. Chag Sameach. Or Chag Sameach, whichever you prefer. So we're going to go out with Parosh B'Shalom, a beautiful psalm. And hopefully we'll get to the end of it and not get cut off at the end. So thank you very much, and safe drive home in this weather.